You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Cynthia Toolin-Wilson, and I'm here with my very longtime friend, Bob Sizemore. And we are on my radio show, Author to Author. And today we're going to talk about his book, Franciscanism, The Answer to Modernism.
Right.
Okay. And Bob, would you like to start us with a prayer?
Yes. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Jesus, for bringing Cynthia into my world once again today. We're all here for the same reason, to lift our fellow men and women to new levels of sanctity. And again, I'm very appreciative of being in her presence. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father,
Amen.
Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. So that's a pretty heavy title there. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm quite aware of that. Let me start by saying that I am a secular Franciscan, which simply means for the listeners that I'm a secular person who chooses to have a deeper immersion in Franciscanism. My wife is also a secular Franciscan, and I have always followed Saint Anthony of Padua. My grandmother used to tell us stories about him and Francis, and when I had an opportunity, I joined a local meeting here, and it's been just a great experience. I found out the other day that Franciscans are the largest group in the Catholic Church when you talk about the orders in the Catholic Church. So what that tells me is, in terms of sheer numbers, they have the ability to reach a lot of people. Okay. I wrote the book in particular for people thinking about joining Franciscanism, to give them an overall view of what Francis has done and will continue to do in the world, because there's nobody quite like him. I may sound a bit prejudiced, but there isn't. There's so many aspects to him that he has the ability to change the world. I want to mention something I heard during the week. As you know, I taught sociology, but I'm also a therapist too. I have a master's in counseling as well. And so I see the big picture and I see the little picture, But John Rowland, who used to be governor of Connecticut, came out with this statement, which sort of blew me away, because he's not what I consider a, quote, spiritual person, but he's had some turmoil in his life, which I think pushed him in that direction. Anyway, he said this. He said, we are all in recovery. That's a powerful statement, we're all in recovery. And to me, that means that we all have an opportunity, maybe more than one, to change our awareness. Okay. And I say that because the world is, as far as I am concerned, is based strictly on illusion. And there's so many parts of that. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to Mars. We're going to do this, that. And right now, the biggest illusion of all, I believe, is this whole idea of AI and how it's going to influence us and take over our lives to the extent that machines will have awareness themselves. And because they go so fast, they will eventually have greater awareness than ourselves. Now, that's a scary thing. So what I'm saying is, I think, as far as I'm concerned, in psychology, there's always the pendulum effect, if you will, that we've gone as far as we can, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of human existence and growth. And now it's going to have to shift back. It's also called polarity. Okay, there's always polarity, and I see Franciscanism as the other polarity. Francis had such spirituality. The one thing that I really fell in love with is he was able to personify almost anything, brother, moon, sister, sun, whatever it was. And he obviously led a life of poverty, but he personified poverty. Now, his intention was not to say you have to be in poverty, but his intention was to say that you have to have an awareness of poverty. And he personified it with lady poverty. Lady poverty is poverty of spirit. Now, let's just stay there for a minute. Poverty of spirit, to me, is like 360 degrees away from the way we're living our lives today, And I think people are going to return to a more humanistic, basic existence because of Franciscanism.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. His whole idea of, he held the incarnation in such high esteem, and he saw, the fact that God sent his son, to be born in this world. And to me, that says volumes about the earth and the value of the earth, as opposed to going out and exploring Mars and every other place. To me, they're all just rock and gases, etc. We're good, especially in America, we're good at, getting away from reality as it exists, and we become surreal, okay? Exploring something which is basically a creation of our imagination. And we pay a huge price for that. And I think, obviously, the media is filled with that today. So I think we have to go back to basics, and I see Franciscanism as the way.
Yeah. Well, there's, I think you're saying a lot of interesting things. I do think that there is a place for, not necessarily space exploration, but the more we learn about the universe, the more we actually learn about God's creation. And so to me, that's a positive thing. On the other hand, I don't think we should be doing it if people are starving to death. We should be using money more appropriately. But I do see that there's a good reason for just scientific inquiry, I guess I'd call it.
Well, I wouldn't deny that, but I think we take it to an extreme. If you realize that things have to be kept in balance, there's so many other things to do and to save people and to avoid starvation and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that definitely is true. But
and by the way, Christ came to our world That's another thing. He came to our world to save us. So I think we should stay focused on that and put going to other planets secondary to that.
Yeah. I understand your perspective. It's, that if things were in better balance, where people that need help were helped, it would be one thing. But I'm not at all convinced that by not going to planets or do any kind of exploration like that, I'm not convinced that we would turn around and start taking care of our fellow man. I don't believe it.
No, because we're headed in a different direction,
Yeah. I was telling somebody the other day, I came originally from Rhode Island, the underclass, and eventually I ended up in Hartford, Connecticut. And I have to say that in spite of all the fighting we've done in these decades for racial equality,
right,
that I had people in class that were smart people, African Americans. They were very smart people, but they could barely read, and they had graduated from high school. Right. And I mean, so I see something like that, and I say, we're kind of pretending we're helping, but we're really not.
Right.
And so I think that that really touched me deeply, because you have smart people who can barely read. My husband, who died in November, he was taken out of school when he was in 4th grade because his father broke his legs and he had to go to work.
Right.
And he could barely read. And my husband was a smart man. Yeah. I mean, he could barely read a page. He would never read a newspaper. And I look at things like that, and it's like, okay, we need to help people better. But the problem is we think we are, and we're not.
No, we're not.
All these special programs to help people read, help teach them math, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And yet they leave without that.
Yeah.
So, I think we need quality control. Somebody standing there and saying, okay, why does this child have a D after being in class for 6 months learning how to read?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I believe beyond the word education, the better word is awareness. Everybody needs to raise their awareness. And when they do, they make different choices as well. Yeah. Yeah. And we owe that to everybody, if we've arrived there ourselves, we owe it to our fellow human beings to help them get there, Yeah.
Yeah. So the space exploration, I don't know, if we stopped all that, do you really think that we would change the way we treat other people? I don't. I think it would end up in some rich guy's pocket.
No, yes, but you know what I'm saying here? I know what you're saying, but I think, again, we aren't, and this is what I see different about us as opposed to what Francis was saying. Francis was satisfied with the basics, and he saw God in that context. But as far as I'm concerned, we're never satisfied with the basics. And I talk about this in my book. We want more and more and more, and all the meism that goes with that. And I see space exploration, almost like a golden calf. It's there, we can do it, and we spend millions of dollars to do it. But what about people in everyday life and what we owe them?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just space exploration. It's a whole lot of scientific stuff that's done for curiosity.
I know. Yeah. Or to say we did it first, It's almost like going back to Sputnik, That's why we got so neurotic. we got so neurotic about it because we didn't do it first, you know.
Yep. We couldn't believe we didn't do it first
Right.
because we were the best.
Right.
Surprise.
Or put another way, our ego defenses really kicked in when that happened, you know.
Oh yeah, they sure did. Yep. That was the race for space.
Right. And we thought that was a be all and end all, you know.
Yeah.
I liken what I'm saying in the book to almost in a micro way to the effect John Paul II had on Poland when he visited there and rekindled their spirituality, you know. That's what I'm really talking. That kind of thing is what I'm really talking about, you know. And it can be done. You know, I talk to a lot of people, and I find a lot of them. Some are more successful than others, but even amongst those people, there's a great deal of loneliness, you know, and dismay about, you know, life, the divorce. I mean, you were talking about your husband and he's the joy of your life, and that's the way it should be, you know. But this society does not lend itself to that all the time, and so the heart is left to hope for more. And I think that's where Francis comes in. I really do. You know?
Yeah.
And I should mention, you know, also Claire, his partner, who developed the Poor Clares. I mean, it's a formidable group, really. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong. But
I believe it's going to happen. You know, I really believe it's going to change, and the reason is the world needs Franciscanism. That's simple in my mind. You know.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of there certainly is a lot of need for him. I would agree.
Yeah,
for his things, I should say. You know, and for his life. I mean, he taught through his lifestyle to a great extent.
Absolutely, he did. Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that. You know,
well, he wasn't a word person. He was an action person. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just see. I'm doing my part with the group I'm a part of. We're trying to get more people and, you know, spread the word. And believe me, there are a lot of people out there who are searching. They may not be able to specify what it is, but they are searching.
Yes.
And we have an answer. Yeah.
That's an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed. You know, people will tell you that they're searching. You know, I'm a seeker. I'm looking for something.
Right.
And it's like, did you lose something?
Well, they could always call St. Anthony on that one.
You know, it's like, do you have any idea what you're looking for? It's like, no. It's like when you hear a child say, well, you know, I don't know what I want to be when I'm grown up.
Right.
You know, but when it's a grown up that's saying it, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Right. We're talking about as Jung would say, the second half of life, not the first.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, there's so many. I mean, you've met a lot of people I know, and you think that, you know, as Jung said, the second half of life is about spirituality, but you think that people would develop that even more. But I think our society takes over and they settle for, you know, trinkets, if you will, you know. And that's the problem. Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things that has always fascinated me is people who collect. It's like, have you ever noticed? I mean, people want everything of a particular kind, like the precious moment little statuettes or the apartment 56 houses. And it's like a quest for them.
Yes, it is.
To get every one of them. And I'm like, how big is your house? Because, they want to keep manufacturing them.
I know.
But
selling the American dream, huh?
Yeah. But it's kind of like that's their reason for being. It's like every weekend they go out looking for a tag sale or whatever.
Right. Precisely. It's acquiring it all the time, and it's not going inside. As Christ said, the kingdom of God is within you, They're going in the wrong direction.
Yep.
That's another thing Francis addresses,
Yeah. I don't know. Somewhere along the line, we got really messed up. And it's more than a original sin. Because we worse over time.
Well, I think the media has a lot to do with that, because they purport to have a certain lifestyle as the ideal. And but they don't show you the problems along the way. And I don't know how many people I've read about this past year, wealthy people who have committed suicide, jumping off of buildings that are, you have to ask yourself, well, if that's the American dream, what happened,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what happens when they're actually airborne.
Well, they're not calling air controllers. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean,
some people. No, they've done studies on people like who jumped off of bridges, etc. And many of them said once they jumped, they realized they made the wrong decision. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would have known that before I got on top of something to jump off of it.
Right. That would seem logical.
I don't need to be in the air to figure out what to say. I'm going to avoid that mistake.
I have enough trouble to negotiate the stairs here, let alone something like that.
Yep. No, I know. Yeah, it's interesting. We live in a messed up world.
Yeah. And, we all have to do what we can to help, turn it around as much as we can, I think,
Yeah. Well, I'm happy up here in Vermont. I have a very nice parish that I go to. And,
nice, very nice.
Yeah, the people are nice. I mean, I haven't met one person who's even crabby yet. Now that I've said that, that will probably happen. I mean, everybody's friendly, everybody's caring. And, I look at that and I think, why can't we transport this to the outside world?
Right.
It should just be in the church. It should be outside too, so. But it's not.
Bernie Siegel, the surgeon from New Haven, who was very famous, loved medicine and miracles. He said, he was powerful in his insight. He says, we're more afraid of our light than our darkness. Isn't that an interesting statement?
That is.
And, people are afraid to shine forth and be a role model or whatever you want to say about it. There's a certain sadness to that because they remained unfulfilled,
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy the other day. He has been married 3 times and now lives at home in his apartment with his dog. That's it. And I'm saying to myself, gee, I said to myself, is that your whole life? I mean, something's missing there, And but I think he's an example of a lot of other people too, at the same time. You know?
Well, I live alone with a cat. I mean,
well, they don't count because they're too smart. We have a cat too.
Yeah. This one lets me live here.
Yes, yes.
As long as I serve.
He tolerates you. That's what they do.
Yep.
They tolerate you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think a lot of people have a life like that. But I mean, I think it all depends. I mean, people could look at me and say, well, look at the old widow. She lives in that house with a cat. And that's so sad, right? But I mean, meanwhile, I'm in here doing 3 jobs I work through the internet. I do 3 jobs.
Right.
You know, I have a house to keep clean. I take care of the cat. I go to mass every day. I have friends there. But it's like, just, oh, look at that old woman living in that house with a cat.
Right.
Bad. But but life is actually nothing like that.
No, there again, the deep spirituality of all of us is overlooked, or the deep need for spirituality. And that's what, I am cognizant of all the time, but it has to be sparked by example, get people thinking again.
Yeah, it's kind of odd how people stop thinking at some point. It's like I don't know, they're satisfied with their life and they just turn off the brain power.
The other thing is, the central question is, who was Jesus? Was he really the God man? And if so, what do you think about this? I think people forget that, or they deny it, whatever, and they get caught up in other spiritualities, or even the environment for some people is a be all and end all,
Yeah, which is actually not actually, it's a growth, I think, of witchcraft, because witchcraft is environmental.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Religions.
Yeah.
Which I stay away from. Because I don't know what's in them.
Yes.
But I've got a feeling.
Right, exactly. One psychology professor said to our class, he says, when in doubt, ignore.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've known a couple of women who were self-proclaimed witches. And
really?
I thought, yeah, but when I was young. Remember, I grew up in the 60s. I was a teenager in the 60s. And at that point in time, anything went.
I was too.
You probably knew a couple of witches too and didn't know it. But anyway, I was like, really? No, I mean, what does that even mean? It's like I'm hearing people wearing black with these big hats and stirring a kettle, but it's like, it's actually much more sinister than that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is. I read an article in our local paper about a guy I knew. I grew up with him. He was espousing paganism, the same thing. And I couldn't get over it, I mean, we had similar backgrounds and everything, but something changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like you take the last 2,000, 2,500 years and just throw them out.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Learn from the Greeks, which is so beautiful. And, I mean, it's like you just look at that and it's like, yeah, why are you doing that? Well,
yeah.
If they have,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If they have any success at casting spells and stuff, that's got to be demonic.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's scary. Mm-hmm.
We can see why Christ bled on the cross and suffered so much, that these people would turn their back on him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because it's an anything goes society. I mean, a lot of people go for religions that are, from imports from other countries.
I know that. Yeah.
Not criticizing their religion, but it's like, we have a perfectly good religion here.
That's right. Don't spoil it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's are a lot of converts too. I mean, I was a convert, and I a lot of people who have converted to Catholicism.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's hope because people do see the light. Some people see the light.
Yeah, I think people have to have a defining moment where all of a sudden things don't work anymore, and they start to look for something better, and it could be illness, it could be anything,
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people, but it wasn't for me. I was just minding my own business, and God slapped me upside the head.
I thought that was just a part in your head. I didn't think that. Yeah.
No, I had no interest at all in converting.
Yeah.
And I went with my first husband and the kids, and my mother-in-law was 85. She always wanted to go to Rome, so we took her to Rome. And the agreement, because I wasn't Catholic, was we'd have breakfast and dinner together. They could go do their religious stuff, and I'd go enjoy Rome, see the museums and things.
Yeah.
So that worked for a while, and then God got impatient. And so husband came to me, my first husband, and he said, I'd like to do something as a family. And I said, well, we are having breakfast and dinner every day. Didn't work. So he said, well, why don't we take a tour? And I said, I don't mind taking a tour, but I don't want anything religious on it. Now, it wasn't that I was anti-Catholic. Yeah. I just wasn't interested, So, so he got a tour called Rome Outside the Walls. And the last site was a catacomb. And it's like, I'm there. So anyway, I ended up going in there because it was so hot on that bus, no air conditioner.
Right.
So I went in, and my level of ignorance was atrocious because now I laugh. I walked by, there were people, I knew they were having mass.
Yeah.
I walked by them and I said, why are they having mass today? It's not Sunday.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, it was a legitimate question. I mean, I didn't ask anybody, but anyway.
Right.
So I followed the tour until I got to where everyone was. And there was a priest talking about, persecution of Christians in the old days. And the weirdest thing, I had this like ticker tape go through my brain.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see a tape going and it said, the truth with a capital T is in the Catholic Church.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, now this shows how stupid I was. I thought to myself, whoever did that spelled truth wrong. It shouldn't have been capitalized.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
Going, oh boy.
You're talking to someone who taught English grammar, so I appreciate that.
But anyway, in the end, I mean, I knew that I knew it hadn't come from in me. From within. And I thought about it. I didn't say anything to my husband or anybody.
Yeah.
I thought about it. And finally, I figured out what it meant. It took a while. And I realized that did not come from inside me, that it came from outside of me.
Yeah.
And there's nobody that has the power to make a ticker tape go through my brain. So I converted.
Wow.
An Roman Catholic theologian.
Right. That's an amazing story.
It really doesn't get any weirder than that,
Well, you recognize, God affects us directly sometimes, it just happens, it's like Paul being, knocked off his horse, I mean, in Damascus, like.
I'm glad he didn't do that. I would have broken something. But, there was no way that I could have ever had that as an imagination or,
right. You recognized it was otherworldly, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
I said that did not come from me. It came from somewhere else.
Right.
And that's why I heard it, because once I figured that out, there was no denying it.
Yeah.
Yep. Then I went to Holy Apostles and got a 90 credit master's in theology. I was already a sociologist.
Yeah.
And from there to Dominican House, Father Mosey said he'd hire me as a professor if I got a licentiate. So I got a licentiate, and he kept his word.
Yeah.
And I taught for 28 years.
Wow. That's quite a story. Yeah.
And then I left when my husband was sick, and
Mm-hmm.
I left Holy Apostles. I found a job the next day at Pontifex University, which is
Mm-hmm.
all remote. So I was able to support the household while he was sick. I
Yeah.
still work like it there.
Yeah.
And two other jobs that are online, both Catholic.
Wow.
So it's weird how things have worked out in my life.
Yes.
I mean, really, sometimes I just look at it and say, this has been it's been a good life, but it's been really weird.
There's a priest from Notre Dame who said, I always think about this. He says, I used to think the work was the work. And then I realized one day the interruption is the work. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think that's really a very wise statement.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
That's the way God gets to us. He interrupts us,
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So I haven't heard of anyone else having the ticker tape.
Well, MacArthur had it when he came through New York. Yeah, ticker tape parade.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
You talked to Rhonda at all?
Oh yes, we have a new radio show. It's called The Dynamic, and we do it on Tuesday nights.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yep. So I was interviewing her on one of her books on this show.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I just had an idea. Why don't we co-host something?
Absolutely.
And a Catholic philosopher, both old women who had worked at the place. And so it's hysterical. It really much.
You know what I like about Rhonda? She doesn't hold anything back,
No, she doesn't. But yeah, we've had I think we've only had 10 episodes so far. But yeah, so I talk to her at least every week, and living in California in assisted living.
Yes, she's very happy there. And you know what? She's back with the Vietnamese people too. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's a good soul. I enjoy talking.
She is. Yes.
Yeah.
Going through a lot in life, Yeah.
No one gets through life unscathed.
That's right. Right. Precisely. Yeah.
So, yeah, nobody, you look back on your life, and the majority, after I left my parents' home, the majority of my life was good. But I look back and it's like, I've lost 2 husbands. I lost a grand.
That's a lot.
It is. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And, you have to decide what you're going to do. Stay here, go away, go someplace else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Were you affected by the flooding?
No, I was very lucky. It was about 20 miles to the west of me. Town Ludlow. I mean, man.
Yeah.
There was so much damage there. It's unbelievable.
I know. Yeah.
So, but I live right near the Connecticut River. I'm maybe 4 miles away from it.
Okay.
And this side of Vermont, I am just 7 miles away from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And so I think it was more of a westerly storm. And boy, I'll tell you, it did a lot of damage, but not here.
Yes.
I lost some tree limbs, but nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm happy that you're in good health and things are going well for you.
Yeah. I made my decision more or less to stay here in Vermont. This was the home that Bill provided for me, and I loved him. And leave the house we had together.
Yes.
So he was the love. He is the love of my life.
Right. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear somebody say that in this time, how many people really can say that, really?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, he is the love of my life. And, I have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and the spouses and grandchildren. So a large family, basically in Connecticut, some here in Vermont. But, and I have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very active in the church. That really is of my life at this point.
Nietzsche said, if I have a why, W-H-Y, for my life, I can cope with anyhow, So as long as you have activities, I think it keeps you young. Yeah.
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 I do a lot. It doesn't take much to clean a house when you've only got a cat with you. So, but what I do, there's a lot of poverty up here.
Oh.
So, in Rutland, which is the next big city in marks, they have a bunch of women that I'm now one of them, and they call it the doll rescue group.
Yeah.
Do is we make doll clothes. We make Barbie clothes or American Girl clothes.
Okay.
So I try to make an outfit a week. I crochet them, and then you give them to them, and they give to the poor little girls.
Good.
So they get a doll, and they get an outfit or two.
Yeah.
Christmas, and I know that they do things for boys, but I can't imagine what I could crochet for a boy. I just keep it for girls.
You can do that in your next life.
I sit here at night. I'm not much of a TV person.
Yeah.
So
good for you.
The cat sits here and watches the yarn.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get that yarn someday.
Yeah.
Keep crocheting, but it's it's something I enjoy doing, and at least it'll go for good.
Yeah. And you're doing good. People, you don't know. People get small gifts, they appreciate them. It makes their day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of poverty up here. So,
wow.
Not really much work. I mean, there is the tourist industry, which is most fall and winter.
Okay.
Because of snow and the leaves, but so there's a lot of people that they work, but they're seasonal workers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that just can't find work. So.
Wow. I never quite thought of Vermont that way, It sounds almost like Appalachia,
Well, I wouldn't go that far. You get into the hills here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say it was all that different. There are a lot of men that do things like logging and farming, stuff like that.
Right.
But to support a family on that, you really got to work.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't. They're all equally successful, but so I try to do my part, and it's a lot of women working every night. They just crochet or sew.
Yeah.
And help somebody out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have a group that gets together of women doing that? Yeah.
It's called Doll Rescue.
Oh, Doll Rescue, yeah.
We don't rescue dolls. But we and if around Christmas, a lot of times, like at the CVS or the Rite Aid, they'll have and they'll go on sale just before Christmas because they want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So if they're cheap enough, I'll get something like that for someone, because it's sad to think of a child with nothing on Christmas.
Yeah. No, you have to have something, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think maybe it's me trying to reverse my horrible childhood. I don't know.
Wow.
It could be.
No, that's unfinished business of childhood is the stuff of life for a lot of people, you know?
It is. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's unfinished, it stays with you. That's the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm much better with that whole aspect. I wrote my memoir, 3 years, Survivor, a memoir of forgiveness, and I wrote about my childhood, which was really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm amazed. I think to myself, did I really end up this normal? Or am I?
It's called grace. It's called amazing grace. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because I should have been, serial killer or something. I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, you read the book.
Yeah.
You read Survivor, a memoir of forgiveness, and it's like, oh my word.
You can't deny it, can you? You wrote it.
No, you can't. No, well, it's true though, and I wrote it on purpose because it's about abortion. My mother had tried to chemically abort me in 1949, and so she told me that when I was 11. So I worked very hard on that book to make sure people could see, am I the greatest person in the world? A far cry from it, but my life was worth living.
That's right.
I didn't have it.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the kind of message that people need to have before they decide to just dispose of a bunch of cells,
That's right. That's very true.
Yeah. And what I always say, which I'm not bragging, it's just, what's my life worth living? I have kids, grandkids, great grandkids.
Right. I've
had 2 husbands.
Right.
Only 2 because they both died.
Yeah.
And I have, I've taught well over 200 men that are now priests. And I hundreds of sisters and priests that wanted to go on an MA.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly a good number of lay people online. And I just look at that and it's like, yeah, someone else would have done that teaching, but it wouldn't have been the same way I did.
No.
Mine is better. But I did that. And if I had been wiped off, there would have been no line of descent after me. And there would have been none of that work done.
Absolutely. We're all part of a tapestry, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't pull a string out of the tapestry without affecting it dramatically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The best example I've ever seen, similar to what you just said, when you genealogy chart and there's like 2 people at the top and then all of a sudden, you got 50 million people. All you got to do is just anywhere remotely in the, just randomly go in there and take out one person who had children and wipe anybody who would be their descendant.
That's right.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. It really.
Yeah.
We have to keep that perspective of our four our parents, our grandparents. They made us who we are, be it behaviorally or genetically too.
Yes. Yeah. Without them, we would not be here.
No.
Almost didn't make it. So I think of how many people there. You've got these little incubators and things for babies that are born, that have something wrong with them, and their parents are so they're frantic, their baby. Yeah. And my mother was ready to flush me down the toilet.
Wow.
And I got to tell you,
get over. I hear you.
Yeah, that's why I say it's amazing I didn't turn out to be a serial killer.
I know. I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you survived again. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yep. Sure did.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think maybe God just put me on this earth so I could be a witness to that.
Yes, that's true.
Because
very true.
It's true. I would have never had a life. Never a life at all. No kids, no grandkids, no great
Right.
grandkids. A whole
And then
line.
when you look at the bigger picture of all the people you met along the way and the impact you've had on them, many times, you're not even aware of it, but it happens, and it's incredible. It really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's me.
Well, I'm thank God for you.
Oh, it's got to be decades now, isn't it?
What's up?
When we've known each other quite a while.
Yeah, well, I was there for 4 years. It was the tail end of my teaching. I taught at Southern for 25 years and Quinnipiac for 21 in sociology. And then I retired from Quinnipiac and I came there. But I will tell you honestly, those 4 years were some of the happiest of my life. And I had a chance to meet you and Rhonda and Sebastian, and it's given me a whole new lease on life. So it's I always say it's good to step out. Always better to make contact with people, than not to make contact, because you're changed,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I should ask Rhonda if you'd like to be a guest on our show.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah.
Talk to her.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Fun.
Let me know when. You're gonna do it on Zoom, right? Just like this?
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what.
Let me know and I'll plan on it,
Okay.
Good.
We can reminisce. You have sociology of religion?
No, I never taught that. No.
Yeah.
I taught religion once at a couple of times at Sacred Heart University. Yeah.
I loved sociology of religion. That was my first master's degree.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I studied with Wade Clark Roof and Jay Demarest. At the time, they were at UMass, and they were both well known.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because I had that interest in religion long before I was religious.
Yeah. Well, you have to say that God put it in you, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I mean, really, there's some things we like to take credit for, but other things you can't because it didn't come from you.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Sociology of religion is very interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
But Wade died. I don't know, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was on the top of the sociology of religion professors for quite a while.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Is that how you met?
Mm-hmm.
You met that way because you were both teaching the courses?
No, I wasn't. Wade was teaching at UMass, and I was a student there, doctoral student. And I was his student.
Yeah.
He was really very bright.
Yeah. My granddaughter just came home. She graduated from UMass, the Massachusetts School of Pharmacology.
Oh, okay.
As a pharmacist. Yeah.
Was that in Amherst or Boston?
No, in Boston. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Amherst, which was a huge campus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it has been great talking to you. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, when I talk to Rhonda, I'm going to ask her if we should have you on.
I really would love to be there. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think that would be great fun.
That would be great fun. Yeah. Okay, let me know. Okay.
I will.
And God bless you. I'll keep you in my prayers. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.